They Live. They Live is a 1988 American science fiction action film written and directed by John Carpenter. Carpenter wrote the screenplay under the pseudonym Frank Armitage. The film is based on a 1963 short story by Ray Nelson titled 8 O'Clock in the Morning. In They Live, a construction worker accidentally discovers glasses that allow him to see people in their true colors and discovers that important figures in political and social life are actually extraterrestrials. During his personal crusade, he witnesses how this alien race has filled the world with subliminal messages intended to turn humans into a slave species. The film, which combines thriller elements with doses of dark humor, has a social undertone. It highlights contemporary fears of an economic recession, a situation Americans experienced in the 1980s, within a society heavily based on consumerism. Plot: John Nada is a homeless man who finds work at a Los Angeles construction site. While on the streets, he sees a blind street preacher warning that they have recruited the rich and powerful to control humanity. One of his new companions, Frank Armitage, takes him to a squatter settlement in a slum where he can eat and spend the night in one of the local shelters, run by a man named Gilbert. As he is shown around, Nada notices strange behavior in a small church across the street. That night, a hacker disrupts the television broadcasts, claiming that scientists have discovered signals that enslave the population through a state of hypnosis and that the only way to stop this is to shut down the signal at its source. Those watching the broadcast complain of headaches. Nada decides to investigate, secretly following Gilbert and the street preacher to the church, where he discovers that the soup kitchen is fake and the choir rehearsal is a recording covering up a clandestine meeting of several people, including the TV hacker. Nada notices some scientific apparatus and piles of cardboard boxes scattered around the back of the building. He stumbles upon several more boxes concealing a secret compartment in a wall, but is discovered by the blind preacher and flees. Later that night, the settlement and the church are destroyed during a police raid. The officers set fire to the shelters and bulldoze them, also beating up the church's blind minister and the hacker. When all is calm the next day, Nada takes one of the boxes recovered from the secret compartment to an alley and upon opening it discovers it is full of sunglasses, keeping a pair and hiding the rest in a trash can. Nada discovers that the sunglasses make the world appear monochromatic, revealing hidden imperative messages in the media commanding consumption, reproduction, and obedience. All the print around him contains subliminal advertising. The sunglasses also reveal that many people are actually inhuman creatures with skull-like faces. When Nada openly confronts them, they sound the alarm using communicator devices on their wristwatches, and the police suddenly arrive. During the confrontation, Nada kills 2 undercover alien police officers and steals their guns. He continues his escape to a local bank, also infested with aliens. After shooting several with a shotgun, he takes Cable 54 employee Holly Thompson hostage. At Holly's house, Nada tries to get him to try on the sunglasses, but she throws him out a window, causing him to tumble down a hill. Holly then calls the police. After recovering, Nada returns to the construction site alley to look for the box of sunglasses, where he encounters Frank. Nada tries to get Frank to put on a pair of glasses, but Frank thinks Nada is a dangerous killer and wants nothing to do with him. After a long and violent fight, Frank is finally forced to put them on and, seeing the truth, agrees to help Nada. Frank and Nada meet with Gilbert and the church's insurgent group. The meeting attendees hear a speaker explaining that the creatures are aliens who have seized control of positions of power and established themselves as high society around the world for decades, causing economic and war crises that keep humans in chaos and uncontrollable. He also points to them as responsible for the carbon dioxide and methane emissions that produce climate change, with the goal of terraforming planet Earth into an environment similar to their homeworld while depleting Earth's natural resources. The aliens have obtained the cooperation of some humans through bribery, promoting them to positions of power. They are also informed that the aliens' primary method of control is a signal sent via television, which prevents the general public from seeing the invaders and their subliminal messages as they really are. Glasses are capable of interfering with this signal, as are new contact lenses distributed among the insurgents. Holly appears at the meeting to apologize to Nada, explaining that after using the glasses he left at her house, she was able to verify the truth and now offers them information about the source of the signal. However, the meeting is raided by the police, who shoot to kill. The vast majority of those present are killed, and the survivors scatter into the night as the police surround the area. Nada and Frank are cornered by the police in an alley, but with the help of one of the aliens' stolen wristwatches, they manage to activate a teleportation portal, through which they escape via an underground tunnel to an unknown building. This turns out to be an alien spaceport, located in the basement of the local television station Cable 54, from which they transmit their signal. At this base, the aliens and their human collaborators celebrate the elimination of the terrorists. Holly leads Frank and Nada to the rooftop, where they prepare to destroy the transmitter. But at that moment, she reveals herself as a collaborator, killing Frank with a shot to the head. She attempts to kill Nada as well, but fails, and he kills her first. Nada destroys the antenna, though he is fatally wounded by aliens attacking him from a helicopter. As a final act of defiance, Nada makes an obscene finger gesture to his enemies before dying. With the transmitter destroyed, the signal masking the aliens disappears. Humans around the world are horrified to discover the invaders hiding among them. Reception. Despite its initial box office failure, $4 million, the film grossed more money domestically, $13,008,928. This is undoubtedly director John Carpenter's most personal film, as it clearly demonstrates his critical stance toward the savage capitalist system. There are key scenes in the film that reveal this science fiction-clad critique. Comments. First, let's mention some historical facts before going into detail about the film. It was in the 1980s when Ronald Reagan was President of the United States. He always preached consumerism and was against the savings system. The 1980s largely formed the basis for what American culture is today. They Live is a scathing indictment of capitalism and the culture of greed disguised as a B-movie monster movie about invading aliens. They Live presented to Nada, a homeless worker whose world is turned upside down when he finds a box of special sunglasses that allow the wearer to see the truth, that is, that subliminal message that drives us to conform and obey is all around us. Now let's look at the famous fight scene, almost 6 minutes long. The brutal fight scene in the alley between Nada and his homeless companion Frank Armitage, over the latter's refusal to wear the special sunglasses, is one of the most celebrated in the history of cinema. It has been referenced, quoted, and parodied. Let's keep in mind that the fight lasts 6 minutes and the scene is filmed as naturally as possible without sound effects. The intention of this long fight between two titans is an allegory of the difficulty that people who have already opened their eyes have when trying to get their friends who still have their eyes closed to open them. They will always resist opening their eyes, and it will not be easy to convince them to look through the glass you are looking through. If Carpenter intended They Live to be a ballistic missile launched into the materialism and excess of the 1980s, he has never been shy about who he ultimately saw as the symbol of that excess, and it was President Ronald Reagan, whose economic policies widened the gap between rich and poor and encouraged rampant greed in the financial sector. Carpenter offered a surprising anecdote that may make you wonder how far-fetched the film's premise actually is: the scene in which he discovers that every page of every magazine on a newsstand is covered with subliminal messages from aliens was filmed on a Los Angeles street, and the director was astounded by the reactions of passers-by, or rather, their lack of reaction to the fact that their local newsstand now seemed to exclusively stock stark white magazines that screamed sinister slogans in bold print. In his words, he didn't see the cameras, he walked by on the street and literally didn't pay attention when the covers said obey. They looked for a moment and moved on. We had a big sign on a building that said, conform, and people looked at it and didn't think twice. It was hard to believe. It's about economic inequality, and Carpenter's decision to make his heroes homeless men, down on their luck against alien invaders who appear to be rich yuppies, clearly underscores the film's ultimate message, which should be even clearer today than it was. The film is a parable. Carpenter has even gone so far as to call it a documentary, this because it's about the exploitation of the poor by the upper class and an indictment of the rampant economic inequality that makes it possible. The director made sure to visually emphasize the gap between rich and poor in the film, such as the opening scenes in the shantytown, which were filmed in a real homeless settlement, framed against the dazzling skyscrapers of downtown Los Angeles in the background. Finally, Carpenter is neither a communist nor a socialist. He's made it clear on a few occasions, he's only against the excessive and senseless consumerism that turns people into what we might call cattle, who only obey and consume. And well, as you can see, this isn't an alien movie per se, but rather an allegory. Here we are as a society being controlled by the media, and they always focus on consumerism, and this consumerism is often senseless because most of the time it's not necessary. I hope you liked it. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.